if you don't already. Yes.
Do we have their handle, guys?
We'll share their handle with you.
We'll make sure that it's in the caption for the YouTube posting.
But I think a lot of people watch them and say, you know, thank you for sharing this. This is my family too, and I don't see a lot of that.
Well, it's a lot of family.
Yeah.
I'm one of 7 kids. I know it's a lot of family when you got that many children. You know, Nick is in for Marni Hughes for NewsNation Live. We got to toss it over to him. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Adrienne, Markie, I'm going to take it from here. We've got a lot of news we want to get into this morning. I'm Nick Smith in for Marni Hughes in Chicago. There are a lot of breaking developments, and we will continue to follow them all. It's time for NewsNation Live. Happening right now, multiple pro-Gaza protesters are attempting to shut down the Senate hearing on getting aid to Israel and Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin were supposed to make the case to send billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine and Israel. Let's listen in.
Testimony. We will pause until the room is cleared.
300 people in Gaza, 3,500 kids dead. Come on, I'm an Army colonel, I'm a former diplomat, I resigned on that war in Iraq that you talked about. That was a terrible thing, and what we're doing right now in supporting Israel's genocide of Gaza is a terrible thing too.
Thank you, Secretary Blinken. If you can continue, please.
Thank you, Chair. The President's funding request has 4 key elements. First, it provides for our enduring support to Israel and Ukraine, 2 democracies under brutal assault by actors determined to wipe their nations off the map. It will ensure that Israel can continue to defend its people by building on the diplomatic, security, and intelligence support that the United States has surged since Hamas's appalling slaughter. I know that several
Committee will suspend, and I again ask that those in the audience respect the people in the room and allow us to continue the hearing. The hearing will suspend until the disruption is removed. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. If you can continue, please.
So I was saying, I know that several committee members have traveled to Israel over the last 3 weeks. They've heard directly from Israeli officials what they need to defend their people and prevent another attack like this one. And that's exactly what the supplemental provides, with $3.7 billion for security needs, including to help Israel bolster its air and missile defense systems. The supplemental also requests additional authority to draw down DoD stocks and enhances the security of our embassy. As President Biden has made clear from the outset, while Israel has the right, indeed it has the obligation, to defend itself, the way it does so matters. In our discussions with the Israeli government, the President and I have both stressed the need for Israel to operate by the rule.
Committee will suspend. Secretary Blinken, you may continue. Thank you.
Chair. So I was saying the President and I have both stressed in our conversations with the Israeli government the need for Israel to operate by the law of war and in accordance with international humanitarian law, and to take all possible measures to avoid civilian casualties. For Ukraine, President Biden is requesting $16.3 billion to supply Ukraine's defense, without which Russia will move quickly to try to seize and exploit any possible opening, and to ensure that Ukraine can sustain the economic base and recovery that its war effort depends on. This funding will not only rebuild Ukraine's economy and offset the damage wrought by Russia, but it will also help to reimagine it, investing in new industries, infrastructure, and supply chains connected to Europe and to the world. Secure and resilient clean energy, anti-corruption bodies, civil society, media. To be strong enough to deter and defend against aggressors beyond its borders, Ukraine needs a resilient economy and a vibrant democracy within its borders. Since Russia launched its war, the robust funding supported by Congress has enabled the people of Ukraine in their courageous fight to defend their nation. It's helped make sure that Russia's invasion and strategic...
Committee will suspend.
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Palestine to Mexico!
Ceasefire now! Defund genocide! Defund genocide! Defund genocide! Defund genocide! In Gaza, now! Ceasefire 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 now!
Thank you. And before I turn back over to you, Secretary Blinken, I just really want to thank the Capitol Police for their very calm and professional manner. We all appreciate it. Secretary Blinken, can you please continue? Thank you.
So to continue, since Russia launched this war, the robust funding provided by Congress has enabled the people of Ukraine in their courageous fight to defend their nation. It's helped make sure that Russia's invasion is a strategic debacle, making it weaker in nearly every way. And it's rallied the world in defense of Ukraine and of the principles at the heart of the United Nations Charter: sovereignty, territorial independence, integrity, and independence. Our partners are making significant contributions to share the burden of assistance. Turning our backs on their efforts would have lasting implications for our own security and our own standing in the world. The conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East have clear links, as both the Chair and Vice Chair have noted. Since we cut off Russia's traditional means of supplying its military, it's turned more and more to Iran for assistance. In return, Moscow has supplied Iran with increasingly advanced military technology, which poses a threat to Israel's security. Allowing Russia to prevail, with Iran's support, will simply embolden both Moscow and Iran. Second, this funding will enable us to tackle grave humanitarian needs created by autocrats and terrorists, as well as by conflict and natural disasters in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Sudan, in Armenia, and other places around the world. Food, water, medicine, other essential humanitarian assistance for civilians must be able to flow into Gaza. Civilians must be able to stay out of harm's way, a task that's made even more difficult as Hamas uses civilians as human shields, and humanitarian pauses must be considered. Helping prevent a worsening humanitarian catastrophe aligns with our nation's most deeply held principles, including our belief that every civilian life is equally valuable, equally worthy of protection. Without swift and sustained humanitarian relief, the conflict is much more likely to spread. Suffering will grow, and Hamas and its sponsors will benefit by fashioning themselves.
Right now,
as the
you're listening
saviors of the
to
very
Secretary Antony Blinken make the case for the Biden administration for more aid to Israel. We're going to go live to Robert Sherman, who joins us live right now from Tel Aviv. Robert, what's the latest you're hearing on the ground? Because things here in that hearing are quite active.
Yeah, and this is a developing situation here with the ground operation, Nick, because the latest we just got from the IDF a few minutes ago is that they're pushing deeper and deeper into the Gaza Strip. They've seen a few terrorist cells that they've knocked out in the northern portion here, but it has been an expansion over the last couple of days. Overnight, they say over 300 targets were hit inside of the Gaza Strip. You're seeing this focus being placed on knocking out rocket launch positions, anti-tank missile positions, and also the extremities of some of those tunnels. That's been a big emphasis, as that tunnel system is rather intricate underneath the Gaza Strip. But the fighting is being described as fierce. That's ongoing right now over in Gaza City. So this is continuing on, but it's an ever-developing situation with a long way to go, according to the IDF, Nick.
Robert, what are aid groups saying about the humanitarian situation right now inside the Gaza Strip?
The message is that there's not enough aid in order to sustain the people of Gaza City and the entire Strip. Because keep in mind, it's over 2 million residents who live inside there. The lack of aid is causing for more violence to break out within the Gaza Strip, more crime, people stealing goods in order to try and feed themselves out of desperation here. So you've seen this decaying of civil order, as the United Nations has put it. Others within the United Nations saying there's simply nowhere for people that is safe and that people are just trying to survive. I want you to listen to what the UN had to say not too long ago. Take a listen.
No place is safe in Gaza. Hunger and despair are turning into anger against the international community.
Hunger and despair are turning to anger against the international community. We've heard the UN and WHO emphasize that a lot over the last few hours here. Their whole message is more aid needs to get in order to sustain their operations. But of course, that has been a sticking point so far in this whole conflict, Nick.
Robert Sherman live for us on the ground this morning. Robert, thank you so much. I want to welcome in Jonathan Tobin, now editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate. I know that you were just watching the same demonstrations that I was watching there as Secretary Blinken tried to inform the Senate on why the United States needs to send more aid to Israel. Through the top of the hour, we've seen multiple anti-Israel protesters interrupt this hearing regarding that aid. What is your reaction to what we just watched?
Well, it's no surprise that Code Pink, and you could see those were supporters of this very radical left organization, were there in forces. They've been at other hearings in Washington in the past. Their position is not about one for humanitarian concerns for the people of Gaza. You know, as we just heard from your correspondent in Israel, people are angry at the international community. That, you know, people in Gaza should be angry at Hamas, their government, which started a war and landed them in this situation, which is hoarding their own supplies for their own military forces. You know, if they want to end this, they should release the hostages and surrender and stop their terrorism, but they won't do that. And
Jonathan,
like
what is the disconnect
actually
there?
Supporting Hamas. I mean, that's the problem here.
Jonathan, what is the disconnect there? We saw this attack take place by Hamas. Why aren't people understanding the response by Israel?
Well, I think groups like Code Pink it's not a question that they don't understand. They support. Ultimately, they think Israel is illegitimate. They think Jews should have, you know, that one Jewish state on the planet is one too many. They support the terrorists, whether they explicitly say so or not. If you're for a ceasefire, you're basically for giving a pass to Hamas and allowing them to achieve a victory. That's what's going on here. It's not, you know, a question of whether we're do we have enough sympathy for the people of Gaza? We have a lot of sympathy for the people of Gaza, but they've been put in this predicament by Hamas, the Islamist group that has ruled Gaza as an independent Palestinian state in all but name since 2007. They launched a brutal war with a barbaric attack on Israel, killing over 1,400 people, men, women, and children, whole families, thousands wounded, over 200 kidnapped, committing bestial crimes, rape, torture, desecrating corpses. So, you know, the idea that people are basically, you know, standing up and saying, no, you've got to let them alone. You know, they're not taking a stand for the people of Gaza. They're taking a stand for Hamas. And they're not even as some sort of, I would say, foolish liberals who just are appalled by the killing, and they say, well, let's just stop it. You know, those people are sort of Hamas's useful idiots. Group like Code Pink, they're on Team Hamas, whether they admit it or not.
You wrote a column in the Jewish News Syndicate, and the headline reads, "They're back, Palestine, because they hate Jews." It's time to stop pretending that those who march to defend Hamas or advocate for Israel's destruction are defending human rights. You say when people say Palestine must be free, they mean the eradication of the state of Israel. Can you explain and break that down for us, Jonathan?
Well, it's pretty clear, and that's what Hamas's charter says. That's what its leaders consistently say. They're not for a two-state solution. They're not for changing Israel's borders or adjusting Israel's policies. They want to eliminate the state of Israel. When they refer to Palestine, they're not talking about Gaza, which Hamas rules, or even the West Bank, which whose Arab population is ruled autonomously by Hamas's rivals, the slightly more moderate Palestinian Authority, Fatah party. They want to destroy Israel. They want to kill as many Jews as possible. So when you say free Palestine, or these mobs chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, they don't mean Palestine will be free. They want it to be free of Jews. And, you know, we have to stop pretending that this, sort of free Palestine movement is about the liberation of the Palestinians. The Palestinians do need liberation. They need liberation from Hamas, from this terrorist group that rules them as an Islamist tyranny, which unfortunately they have a lot of support. President Biden is wrong when he says that most Palestinians don't support Hamas. Unfortunately, all too many do. But the key point here is that this this critique of Israel. It's not criticism of Israel. It's attacks on Israel's existence. And if you're willing to say that you're going to deny to the Jews that which you wouldn't deny to any other people in the world, the right to have one small sovereign homeland, the right to defend yourself, you're not trying you're not trying to abolish any other country. That's anti-Semitism. That's not a criticism of Israel. That's about abolishing Israel. And, we have to just call that by its right name. And to say that that's a respectable opinion about which, reasonable people can agree to disagree. No, I'm sorry. We wouldn't accept that about any other nation. No, you don't have a right to abolish Israel. You don't have a right to just say, I support the genocide of its 7 million Jews because they're in the way. No, that's
Jonathan,
wrong.
I've got one more question
wrong.
for you before I run out of time. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is rejecting calls for that ceasefire that you just talked about. How would Hamas view a ceasefire? Would that be a sign of victory or weakness on Israel's part?
Well, of course it would be a sign of victory. That's what they're counting on. They're counting on, the useful idiots at the UN and, among well-meaning liberals who are just appalled by any kind of war. Listen, everybody's appalled by the bloodshed. But the point is, Hamas started this. If they're allowed to still be standing, to be still in control of Gaza, to have their armaments, their tunnels, their missiles, when the firing stops, they have won. And and if you think that this has nothing to do with the United States, or it's just something about whether, maybe you don't care whether, about Jews or, their survival or Israel's survival. This is backed by Iran. This is an international Islamist movement. They hate the West. They're attacking Israel because they're right there. But this is a danger to America and the West as well. And Hamas needs to be defeated, needs to be destroyed. And if there's going to be any hope for peace, it has to start with Hamas's complete defeat.
Jonathan Tubin live for us this afternoon. Jonathan, thank you so much for your insight. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, still ahead, we are continuing to monitor that Senate hearing on the $105 billion emergency aid package for Israel and Ukraine. Plus, we're also watching another Senate hearing on threats to the homeland. We'll bring you live updates on each of these as they happen. And in about 10 minutes, I'll be joined live by the girlfriend of a man who was killed while trying to help rescue people from the Hamas attack at a music festival. His heroic act and the legacy he leaves behind. All that and so much more straight ahead.
Shingles. The rash can feel like pulsing electric shocks and last for weeks. A pain so intense you could miss out on family time. The virus that causes shingles is likely already inside of you. 50 years or older? Ask your doctor about shingles.
With Gold Bond, you can age on your own terms. Retinol Overnight means the smoothing benefits of retinol are now for your whole body. Plus, fast-working crepe corrector diminishes wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Gold Bond, champion your skin.
If you have chronic kidney disease, you can reduce the risk of kidney failure with Farxiga, because there are places you'd rather be. Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections, and low blood sugar. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
Lactate is 100% real milk, just without the lactose. Delicious, too. Just ask my old friend Kevin.
Nothing like enjoying a cold one while watching the game. Who's winning?
We are, my friend. We are.
Every day, around 70% of American families go in and out of their home through the garage. That's why we love garage keypads. Easy, convenient. But does it tell you when the kids get home from school? In fact, you never really know who's using it or when. That's why we decided it was time for an upgrade. Introducing the all-new MyQ Smart Garage Video Keypad. With a built-in camera, you can get streaming HD video day or night. Create and manage custom PIN codes and even create schedules to get complete access control. And get real-time notifications when motion is detected or the keypad is used, all conveniently in the MyQ app. Installation only takes a few minutes, and it's compatible with most garage door openers. The MyQ Smart Garage Video Keypad gives you peace of mind with visibility and total control. It's not just the key to your garage, it's the key to your home. Go to myQ.com and get $30 off with promo code TV69.
You think life is short? Football is short. The regular season's just 18 weeks. That's it. So cherish every over and under before it's over on FanDuel, with live betting on every NFL game. Because before you know it, a cold night at a Buffalo Bills game will just be a cold night in Buffalo.
Bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Tonight on NewsNation, terrifying new footage shows the moments a furious driver tears through a crowded parade. For the first time, we're seeing the driver's dash cam video. Tonight on Banfield, only on NewsNation.
Right now, we're monitoring breaking news out of Capitol Hill, where several anti-Israel protesters have interrupted the Senate Appropriations Committee as Secretaries Antony Blinken and Lloyd Austin attempted to testify about Israel and Ukraine funding. Joining me now is retired U.S. Navy Captain William Toty. Captain Toty, I know that you've been watching these hearings like I have. What do you make of these protesters with the blood on their hand and Gaza written down the arm saying, you know, things like a ceasefire now and let Gaza live?
Nick, I think these protesters think this is their Vietnam moment. I was a small boy during the protests in Vietnam, but I was old enough to recognize and remember how violent and bloody those protests were. I will say there's two differences. Number one, the United States was leading the war in Vietnam. And number two, Vietnam never constituted a threat against the United States. None of those factors are true here. You know, and I would say that these folks are forgetting history. I was in the Pentagon on 9/11 when the plane hit. I was lucky enough to survive when many of my friends didn't. When I got home that night, many of my World War II veteran friends called me and said, "You were hit by a kamikaze just like us." It wasn't until that moment that I realized that Al-Qaeda didn't invent this tactic of a suicide airplane flying to something. It was invented by the Japanese in World War II. It was just that our enemies were better students of history than we were. And this is one of those moments. It's an inflection point in global history, not just American history. And if we don't do something to eliminate one of the three major global threats against the United States, this could go very bad for us in the future.
Captain Toty, I'm glad that you said that because, you know, I too am a little bit older and I'm surprised by the anti-Israeli sentiment that I am seeing, but I'm noticing that it seems to split around age, that those 30 and younger feel quite differently than those who are my age, quite frankly, and older. Talk to us about this funding request for Israel and Ukraine, and why are Secretaries Blinken and Austin taking this fight to D.C.?
Well, I'll talk about Ukraine first, Nick. And all I can say is Ronald Reagan must be rolling over in his grave right now. We spent trillions of dollars during the Cold War to, you know, kind of neutralize and defeat the Soviet Union. And if you would have told any Congress during any president's regime, from John F. Kennedy through, I would say, George W. Bush, that for a fraction of that money, we could really have an impact on neutralizing the emergent Russian threat with no risk to American lives while rebuilding American defense jobs, every one of those Congresses would have jumped at the chance. And it's amazing to me that we're even having this conversation about Ukraine. Of course, we need to continue to support the neutralization of the Russian threat, one of the three global threats against the United States. And Israel, I think most of Congress agrees that this has to happen. There's a small fringe that your previous guest referred to as useful idiots that oppose it. But I think that it's kind of, it's going to happen. The only question is, how easy will Congress allow it to happen? If this were a normal deliberative congressional process, we could split those elements apart and have a debate about them. But Congress has become so dysfunctional that if we want to push this through in meaningful time, they need to be aggregated and passed all together, in my opinion.
Captain Tony, I have less than a minute, but I have to ask you this, talking about that Ukraine funding once again, because I have no doubt that the funding for Israel will pass. Why is there such a disconnect? Why isn't the case being made on why it is important that we continue to fund Ukraine? What message aren't the American people getting, or what message isn't the Biden administration pushing?
Well, clearly it's two factors. First, there's a valid argument that we need to balance the federal budget. Got it. Okay. You could have a debate about how we do that. And the second is an increasing sense of isolationism in the Republican Party that's emerged post-Trump. And I say that as somebody who considers himself a Reagan Republican. And so I think it's a dangerous precedent because the United States needs to be a global leader. And this is one area where clear global leadership is required. This should not even be a debate.
And Captain Tony, when we talk about Ukraine, you've got someone saying, hey, we're willing to take out this enemy for you with no boots on the ground. We just need you to give us weapons. And somehow that message is being lost, Captain Tony.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I've been to Ukraine. Ukraine has its problems. I don't want to deny that. But at this moment in history, there's a significant threat to Europe that can be eliminated, which would eliminate the need to invoke, NATO Article 5, and would cause us to be drawn into a war in Europe. And so this is the time to do it, and this should not even be a debate.
Retired U.S. Navy Captain William Tody. Sir, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Nick.
For more on this, we're joined by Michael Schnell, congressional reporter for The Hill. Michael, good afternoon. You know, we've been following the disruptions there in that Senate aid hearing. A new bill from House Republicans has set the stage for a fight over support for Israel. The measure calls for $14 billion in emergency aid to Israel to be paid for by cutting IRS funding. This is the new Speaker's first big legislative move. What are the chances of this bill actually passing, Michael?
Hey, Nick, look, right now, the bill's chances of passing, at least in the House for once, for starters, is up in the air. And there are two key issues here. You mentioned the first one, the fact that there are pay-fors included in this piece of legislation. So traditionally, emergency funding doesn't include these offsets, doesn't include these pay-fors. But as you mentioned, this includes $14.3 billion in cuts to IRS funding. And that has sparked some concern among Democrats. Some folks, voicing, speaking out against the fact that there are pay-fors included in this supplemental funding. Some saying that it shows that it's not really emergency funding if Republicans are trying to offset it with different funding. So we'll have to see if that turns off Democratic opposition when it ultimately comes to the floor. The second issue here is the lack of Ukraine funding, or rather the absence of Ukraine funding in this piece of legislation. Democrats and some Republicans also have been very adamant that they want to move Ukraine funding and Israel funding at the same time in the same package. There's some concern that Ukraine funding couldn't actually make it over the finish line as a standalone bill because of this growing skepticism within the Republican Party about sending increased funds to Kyiv. So those are two key issues that Democrats and some Republicans, specifically about not pairing Ukraine aid and Israel aid, have with this piece of legislation that are really going to play into his chances of being able to pass on the floor later this week.
Michael, this is a big test, without question, for Johnson in his new role as Speaker. What will you be looking for as this bill faces a vote, and perhaps as soon as literally this week?
Yeah, look, Mike Johnson is going to want unanimous Republican support on this piece of legislation. And there's been some reporting that Congressman Tom Massey, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene are not in favor of this piece of legislation, that they plan to vote against it. Speaker Johnson did an interview with Fox News yesterday where he said that he's already made outreach to Tom Massey to talk about this bill with him, try to cajole him to get on his side. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing how Mike Johnson, makes his way through these political and legislative landmines. We're talking about Ukraine aid, Israel aid, foreign aid. It's always a big conversation within Congress. So I'm curious to see how Mike Johnson navigates those conversations if he's able to get this piece of legislation over the finish line. As you mentioned, it's his first big legislative push as Speaker. And then after that, I want to see how he handles Ukraine aid. because he has said adamantly that Ukraine should not be left on the sidelines, that the U.S. needs to continue to aid and fund its ally. How he actually does that in the very fractious GOP conference, that's going to be fascinating to watch.
And Michael, part of this funding for Ukraine, is my understanding, is also meant to resupply many of the munitions and weapons that we actually sent to Ukraine, correct, here in the United States?
Yeah, and this all right, that regardless of where the money goes, I mean, there have just been some Republicans who have flat out said they don't want to send additional money to Ukraine. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has really been one of the loudest voices in this camp, essentially saying that sending additional funding to Ukraine is a red line for her. She said that throughout several legislative pushes in recent months. A lot of Republicans are asking for accountability measures. They want to know exactly where this funding is going once it gets to Ukraine. Others are saying that they want to hear from the Biden administration a clear endgame to the war between Ukraine and Russia. How exactly are these funds being used, and how will this war eventually come to an end? Those are two concerns that Republicans have been voicing, including right now as we talk about the White House's supplemental request, which included roughly $60 billion in Ukraine aid. Some Republicans are voicing concerns.
And Michael, I think that there are some on the far left who would also like to hear what the end game is from the Biden administration. Either way, it looks as though the administration has a lot more explaining to do. Michael Schnell, thank you so much. And coming up, I'll be speaking with the girlfriend of a man who was killed while helping to rescue people from the Hamas attack at the music festival. His heroic act and the legacy he leaves behind. Up next.
Did you use your mum's car to dispose of a body?
It's a size and scale that'll make this one of the country's largest ever manhunts.
As in everything?
Including you, Father Brown?
Sounds like I've got some catching up to do.
Well, I'm certainly going to give it a whirl. They want you to change your name.
Cary Grant. I won't give back what's mine.
Stream the best of British TV. Only on BritBox. Watch with a free trial at BritBox.com.
The virus that causes shingles is sleeping in 99% of people over 50, and it could strike at any time. Think you're not at risk? Wake up, because shingles could wake up in you. If you're over 50, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about shingles prevention.
Icy hot. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last. Feel the power of contrast therapy, so you can rise from pain. Icy hot.
Have you ever wondered what an icon, a legend, a legacy, a pop star, and a tight end all have in common? They all got this season's updated COVID-19 shot to help better protect them against recent variants.
Got it.
Got yours?
My mental health was much better, but I struggled with uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia. TD can be caused by some mental health meds.
And it's unlikely to improve without treatment. I felt like my movements were in the spotlight.
#1 prescribed Ingrezza is the only TD treatment for adults that's always one pill once daily. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TD movements in 7 out of 10 people. People taking Ingrezza can stay on most mental health meds. Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, behaviors, feelings, or have thoughts of suicide. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including angioedema, potential heart rhythm problems, and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
It's nice. People focus more on me.
Ask your doctor about #1 prescribed once daily Ingrezza.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Attention everyone on Medicare. Today we are talking about 2024 Medicare Advantage plans. If you don't have a 2024 Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits available in your zip code. Right now is the Medicare annual enrollment period. You can call now to see if there are any changes to your current Medicare plan in the upcoming year or find out if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan with additional additional benefits. Everyone on Medicare is encouraged to call. Call now and a licensed insurance agent can look up your plan and see if there are any changes to your current plan in the upcoming year. Call now during the Medicare annual enrollment period. Part C plans can change every year. Don't wait. Call before the Medicare annual enrollment period ends on December 7th for your free, no-obligation 2024 Medicare benefits review. Call 800-956-1502. 800-956-1502.
Welcome back. It's a story of heroism in the midst of hatred. Ben Shimoni was among the thousands of attendees at the Supernova Music Festival in Israel on October 7th. That's when Hamas attacked out of nowhere. Ben sprang into action, driving 2 carloads of strangers to safety. He then went back for a third, but he never returned. For 5 days, Ben's family and his girlfriend Jessica searched for him before they got the tragic news that he had been shot and killed by Hamas. We are honored to be joined right now by Ben's girlfriend, Jessica Elter. Jessica, first I want to just start by saying I'm so sorry for your loss. Reading through the notes, this was emotional for me because I can only imagine how his family and how you must feel. But this is not about me. This is about Ben, who is a hero. Do you mind sharing with us his acts of bravery on October 7th at that music festival and what you want all of us to know?
Of course. Thank you for having me, telling him his story. Ben went to a party to have fun, like he always used to do. Suddenly, at 6 in the morning, there was a mess, rockets, terrorists, a big mess, and no one understood what's going on. I was waiting for him in our house in Ashkelon. And I was calling him. I knew something was wrong because we live in Ashkelon and we had rockets and bombs and alarms, and I was afraid. I called him to come home because I was afraid. I had no idea what's going on with him. And he's saying, I will come back, but not now. I need to save some people. And I was asking him, what do you mean? Save who? What is going on? He was being gentle with his words, but he said something is happening and he needs to save some people. That's the only thing he said. I was calling him to come back home and he said, don't worry. I have 5 people in the car. I'm putting them in Beersheba and I'm coming. He called me after he saved 5 people. Ben doesn't know. He opened the doors of his car. He's seeing people running all over, screaming, blood. People are injured, and he's opening his car, his door, and he's bringing people, just shouting on people to come inside his car as much as his car can get. Like he wanted 6, 7 people, but he couldn't, so he took 5. And then he was calling me after he saved 5 people, and he told me, Jessica, I saved 5 people. I'm sorry. I'm not coming back yet. I feel like I can help more people. And I'm going back. My friends are there. My friends are injured, and I'm going back for them. And Ben went back. He never told me how bad it was. He never told me the first time he escaped from there. His car was shot, and he almost got shooten by terrorists. I thought, I can trust Ben. He will go save some people and come back like he always do. Like he always helping people, and he's always back home. But this time was different, and Ben went back for the 3rd time after he saved many people. And I was calling him. I was on the phone with him, and that was our last phone call. And he said, don't worry. Gaia is here, one of his workers. He went back to save. And I will say Gaia is no longer with us today as well. Don't worry, Jessica. Gaia is here. I got more people in the back. I don't know them, but I'm taking them with me. And suddenly, I can hear Ben saying, "What is this? Terrorists?" Like somebody came, like they was surprised. They came out of nowhere.
Jessica,
and I heard the.
It's clear. I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm watching video of the two of you dancing at a birthday celebration where you're giving him like a cupcake. We saw the video there of the aftermath at that music festival. It's clear to us when you talk about him what made him special to you. Jessica, when did you learn that he had been killed, and what's your experience been the past few weeks trying to make sense of everything that's happening right now?
There is no sense in the last few weeks. He was everything for me. And for many, many people here in Israel, he is a shy person, a very, very quiet person. He's from the kind of the people who is just doing. He's not talking, he's doing. And he was a big heart. He was there for everyone. If you need his help, he will go all the way to America to help you without knowing you. This is the kind of person that Ben was. And that's how he left us, by being Ben. Nobody was surprised from what he did. No one.
By being Ben, and he was even protecting you, Jessica, when he said, "Oh, I'll be there," and you're like, "I'm scared now, Jessica. My buddy's with me. We're going to be there," and none of that surprises you.
None of this, because this is such a Ben thing to do. He was calling us, "Get inside a safe place. Close the doors." I was crying. I was crying to him on the phone. Was begging him, "Please, I'm afraid," and he was trying to relax me instead of telling me I was almost killed 3 times. He's the definition of a hero. But there is a sentence that says, "A hero never dies." And Ben escaped from so many things in his life. He was supposed to come back. We need him, and not only me, the whole country. He's a hero of all Israel, not only me, not only his friends and family. He did a thing that I never, ever, ever heard of such a brave man. Just from hearing the stories, although I knew Ben, and it's such a Ben thing to do, I can't imagine what it is to go back again to a place that you know what's going in there. You know the dangers. You know you can die, but still you're putting lives of others to save them and not yourself. And that's what Ben did that day. And he saw horrors. I know. Believe me.
Jessica, I want to thank you for sharing Ben's story with us. I want to thank you for being vulnerable with us, and my condolences not only to you, but to Ben's family as well. And he is indeed a hero. Jessica Elter, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it. Well, happening right now, Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray in the hot seat on Capitol Hill. The hearing on threats to the homeland. Up next.
The virus that causes shingles is sleeping in 99% of people over 50, and it could strike at any time. Think you're not at risk? Wake up, because shingles could wake up in you. If you're over 50, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about shingles prevention.
We have generations of low riding in our family. We're not sworn in, we're born in. Seeing my baby girl Ava beg to cruise with me reminds me exactly how I was with my pops. And that's important to me because the Serrano legacy continues.
Family is just very important.
She's my sister, and we depend on each other a lot.
She's the rock of the family. She's the person who holds everything together.
It's a battle, you know, I'm gonna be there.
Keytruda and chemotherapy been treated in my cancer with 2 different types of medicine.
In a clinical trial, Keytruda and chemotherapy was proven to help people live longer than chemotherapy alone. Keytruda is used to treat more patients with advanced lung cancer than any other immunotherapy. Keytruda may be used with certain chemotherapies as your first treatment. If you have advanced non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer and you do not have an abnormal EGFR or ALK gene. Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion, memory problems, muscle pain or weakness, fever, rash, itching or flushing. There may be other side effects. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems. If you've had or plan to have an organ or stem cell transplant, receive chest radiation, or have a nervous system problem.
It feels good to be here for them.
Living longer is possible. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. Ask your doctor about Keytruda.
My most important kitchen tool? My brain. So I choose new Nariva Ultra. Unlike some others, it supports 7 brain health indicators, including mental alertness, from 1 serving to help keep me sharp. Try new Nariva Ultra. Think bigger.
The Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale is back. Right now, you'll save 50% site-wide on America's best steaks, chicken, burgers, and so much more. All backed by our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. And for a limited time, when you go to omahasteaks.com/TV, you'll get 4 air-chilled boneless chicken breasts and 4 rich, juicy boneless pork chops free with your order. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today and save big on the quality you deserve.
We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
Right now, senators are hearing urgent warnings about Hamas. FBI Director Christopher Wray and the Homeland Security Secretary are giving their insights about threats to the homeland, including Hamas, but also China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Joining me now is Michael Chertoff, former Homeland Security Director under President Bush and Executive Chairman of the Chertoff Group. Mr. Chertoff, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Sure, happy to do it.
Absolutely. I know that you're listening in on this hearing as well. What do you see as the biggest threats right now to U.S. security?
I think it's the possibility of somebody being inspired to commit an act of terrorism. It could be a physical act of terrorism. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a combination of both of those. And particularly because we're dealing with people whose motivations may be just emerging now, they're not necessarily on the radar. So we have to be prepared for the unexpected.
And the unexpected includes, we've seen an increase since this Israel-Hamas conflict has intensified. The Homeland Security Department has reported a surge in threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities. What should be the response?
I think the response has got to be, from the standpoint of law enforcement, obviously investigating and deploying security in places that might be attractive targets. I think if you're a community organization or a religious institution that's affiliated either as a Jewish one or a Muslim one, you may want to take extra precautions to screen who enters and also to prepare plans for what happens if somebody does wind up committing an act of violence. Do people know what to do? Is there a refuge? Is there a plan of how to escape? And all these things ought to be thought about in advance of something, God forbid, happening, and not once you're in the middle of a crisis.
Michael, we have made much reporting. We've done different studies on AI and how it will transform everything that we're doing in the business. I have to believe you've looked at it also as far as a security risk. How do you see artificial intelligence playing a role in the world of national security and possibly a threat to the United States?
Well, as the president's executive order of this week made clear, I mean, there is both a national security benefit and a national security threat from artificial intelligence. The threat is the possibility of using artificial intelligence to penetrate, for example, our IT structure, maybe creating damage or destruction to critical infrastructure. It can also be used to penetrate IT in order to steal data and information by tricking people into believing that they should allow in or should click on something that turns out to be a virus or something that is malware. At the same time, AI can be helpful. It can help you analyze when you're talking about a flow of people coming into the country, who might be a higher risk person, who you ought to focus your attention on when people, for example, are boarding airplanes. So like with any other tool, there's both positive and negative dimension to artificial intelligence. But most important, we need to really understand how it operates in order to make intelligence how to protect ourselves.
Michael Chertoff, once again, I want to thank you for joining us this morning and giving us your insight. I know that we have a lot of work to do as far as like staying alert and staying aware. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're also monitoring another hearing on Capitol Hill today on the $105 billion emergency aid request for Israel and Ukraine. We'll continue to monitor this as it develops right here on NewsNation Live. Stay with us.
The CW is your new home for college football as we team up with the ACC to bring you 13 electrifying games. The ACC on the CW, Saturdays.
Now's the time for cleaner indoor air with an air duct cleaning from Stanley Steamer. You've known us for carpet cleaning, but we've been cleaning air ducts for over 20 years. We do things the right way, cleaning your entire system. So if you need an air duct cleaning, call 1-800-STEAMER today.
Shingles. The rash can feel like an intense burning sensation and last for weeks. It can make your workday feel impossible. The virus that causes shingles is likely already inside of you. 50 years or older? Ask your doctor about shingles.
Meet Gold Bond Daily Healing, a powerhouse lotion that moisturizes, heals, and smooths dry skin with 7 moisturizers and 3 vitamins. And new Gold Bond Healing Sensitive, clinically shown to heal and moisturize dry, sensitive skin. Gold Bond.
I was stuck. Unresolved depression symptoms were in my way. I needed more from my antidepressant. Vraylar helped give it a lift.
Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults, report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Stomach and sleep issues, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks.
I didn't have to change my treatment. I just gave it a lift.
Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
This is a special alert.
Israel is under attack, and Israel's enemies seek our destruction. The people of Israel need immediate help.
Rockets have us squarely in the crosshairs. Our people are targets in their own homes. Many have lost everything and fear for their lives.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has launched an urgent response to rescue those affected by this violent attack.
Our teams are on the ground across Israel delivering life-saving aid. Your urgently needed gift of only $45 will help rush food, water, medicine, and emergency supplies for Jewish families that have nowhere to turn.
Time is literally running out. What we need you to do is to act now.
Please call 1-800-946-7288. Scan or go online now.
Hi, I'm Jeff from Nuts.com. When my grandfather started this business in 1929, he relied on 4 important values: freshness, quality, variety, and service. I'm proud to carry on his legacy, but from a bigger space. We still freshly roast, season, and dip delicious nuts here in New Jersey and deliver them with the freshest dried fruits, snacks, and sweets to families that love our products all around the country, including mine. We think you'll love nuts.com too, so check us out and enjoy free shipping on your first order.
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Jody's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Still ahead, more Americans have been brought home from Israel thanks in large part to Project Dynamo. I'll speak with one of the people leading the charge in the rescue effort. We're also monitoring two hearings on Capitol Hill today, one on the $105 billion emergency aid request for Israel and Ukraine, and one on threats to the homeland. We'll keep you updated on both of these right here on News Nation. We'll be right back.